Reeling, rocking, I don't care. Not reeling, rock, I say. Reeling, rocking, I don't care.
Hi, I'm Linda Sigmon. We're at my home at the foot of Sigmon Mountain in Callaway, Virginia. And we're talking about pickling. And how I really got started in on pickling was I got married 52 years ago and I did not know how to pickle. My parents always froze everything, so all I know was to freeze things. They did can tomatoes. I could can tomatoes. And my granny used to laugh and say, well, you could bake a cake. But that was about it. So the first year we had a garden planted before we got married. And when I had all these cucumbers, what was I supposed to do with them? So my mother-in-law started telling me how to make pickles. And I did what they call the icicle pickle for years and years. Suddenly they started just swiveling on me. I couldn't figure out why they were swiveling. So I called my Aunt Essie, who I had always known had the best pickles. That's the reason we didn't pickle before I was married, because she always gave them to us. So I called her and I said, Aunt Essie, my pickles keep swiveling. What am I doing wrong? She said, you don't have the right ratio of sugar and vinegar. I said, well, I've been making this one pickle all these years and never had a problem. She said, taste your vinegar today and of the latter years. She said, it is weaker because they want to make more money off of it. That's what she told me. And I did start to notice the vinegar just did not taste as strong as it did in previous years. So she said, call me back in about an hour. Let me find my recipe. I said, well, I was hoping all along you would give me your recipe. And I did. And she died lost all her recipes. Nobody else in the family has any of her recipes but me. So I have held on to this one like gold. I call it a family secret. And everybody that has tasted my pickles think they deserve to be in the fair, in the judgment, and they will be this year. So, but she told me how to do it, and I got started in that way, and I've been making them ever since. But I have let a few people have the recipe. You got to be really close to me to get my recipe. So that is the way that I got started in pickling. And basically that's the way I got started in doing any kind of preservation of any kind of pickles, tomatoes, canning, and all this stuff was Larry's mama. And she died several years ago, and we miss her. But she taught me everything I know about pickling. Now my granny taught me cooking, but my mother-in-law taught me the preserving of food. And I've been doing it for 52 years. All right, I guess we're kind of starting from the very beginning. You don't get pickles until you get cucumbers. And this has been a dry year, but we irrigate because we have gravity water, so it doesn't cost us anything. We have soaker hose from one end to the other and keep them going. You have to really watch for the rust on them when they start turning brown. You probably can find a little spot that has had the rust. Which you never can come out here and pick them all in one size. You pick them whatever's there. You can pick them clean from the size of your little finger up. Then you take them in and start. Here is an example of what that rust will do for them. And it will kill them and bring them down fast if you don't do something for it. Which about all I can say is you got to pick them clean, and you pick them every day or every other day, depending on the size that you want. Then when you're doing your pickling, you kind of sort out the sizes, which I'll show you later.
You were talking about, what was you saying?
The trellis.
Yes.
Yeah, we have, he just used I can't take credit for these cucumbers this year. Normally, up until a couple of years ago, I did all the gardening. I raised everything. But since with my strokes, Larry has took over with everything as far as the garden goes. So he put a kind of like a wire mesh fencing type stuff up here, and it runs up on it. When it gets started, all you do is start it at the bottom as they're small. You just kind of guide them up. Some of them you may have to take a little twist tie to get them started, but then after that they just follow themselves. You can see why this has just gone on up. He came over here and tied them up one time, and that's all he's done. And Doesn't take up this much room. They don't rot. You can find them easier. You don't step all over them and kill them trying to find them. And you don't stand on your head to hunt them, which I can't do that anymore, but that's the way it is.
And for someone who didn't know nothing about the planting process, it's all like when y'all plant, do y'all have a certain type of seed or? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question right there. We do use a pickling cucumber. It's just called a pickling cucumber. And we don't like plants. If you don't do the plants yourself, sometimes you tend to bring bugs into your garden that you don't want. We used plants a few years back, and that's when we seen the first cucumber beetles that I had ever seen. So we use the seeds and just put the seeds in the ground. Some people like to start plants. We don't.
When do you start doing it for everybody that knows, like what around here?
When the weather gets warm enough that you can plant your tomatoes, you can do your cucumbers. Some people go by the sign of, and I never have. My mother-in-law, she went right by the sign with her cucumbers, but she never had any more than I did.
So would it be after May?
No, usually by the 5th of May you can plant anything. But a lot of times if the weather gets warmer, then we will go ahead and start about the last of April, somewhere around there.
If there's a frost, will it kill the seed?
It'll kill them.
Okay.
Yes, we started a little early last year, and when we knew that we had them up about 2 inches, we knew it was going to frost, so we just went out and throwed sheets, just bed sheets over top of them. Anything that will keep the frost from burning the leaves. Or you can go out if you get out before the sun comes up and take a watering can and wash it off. But we were late getting everything in this year because it wasn't warm enough, and the pandemic, we couldn't get out and get everything that we needed to get planted. So we were actually late. But now they do need a lot of fertilizer, which more compost fertilizer, like in cow manure and stuff, which this area here, you'll see the difference in these cucumbers and tomatoes than you'll see in the other one. This was a feeding lot. So this was really fertile land when we done it. And but it's a big difference, but it takes a lot of water because Martha can tell you these have jumped since she was here a couple of weeks ago and looked at them because we got so much rain for a little while. Yeah, it's a lot of work in them. I don't think Larry realized until he started doing it for himself. Okay, it's just like it was when I was talking about the cucumber vines over there. You go out to pick cucumbers, you're never going to get the same size. They're never all the same. But this is the sizes that I majority pick up. Anything that's larger than that, I more time don't use it. This, if I get anything this, or anything much larger than this, I slice them crossways, which you can see with this jar of pickles. All right, anything this size, or anywhere between here and here, or down, I take and slice them long ways. Just slice them in half. Okay, anything this size or smaller, I take and leave them whole. Then you've got, as you can see, I've done them here. These are a lot more work. You've got to take them and sit down and just punch them all up 3 or 4 sides of them so that you've got to pierce that skin or peeling for all your things that you're going to soak them in to go inside. If you don't, they'll swivel and they will be just pithy inside. They don't preserve real well.
That was good.
So, you've got all these pickles here. Start with, you never, ever, ever make pickles in enamel, or not enamel, but any kind of a steel pan. Not a dish pan, not a cook or pot or anything. Even if it's a large enough thing, you still do not put salt water to soak, or your alum, or your vinegar especially in it, because it will pit it. And that's going to come into your pickle. You don't want that. Because you can see, I use 5-gallon food safe buckets. And you can use Crocs. I don't use Crocs because they're heavy. Even that little one right here, it only holds a gallon, but that is so, I don't have a lot of strength, but it is so heavy. And I do large batches when I do them. And usually you can, if you want to double your portions, you just double your recipes. All you got to do if you want to do 5-gallon instead of 2.5 gallons. You just double your recipe. And I've already put some in to take and to start. These I put in a couple of days ago. These two here I put in to take. They need to be poured off and rinsed out, and I will show you that in just a little while. And you can see on the inside of the water, it starts to get yucky looking. I mean, really looks yucky. But it does. That's just the way it does, because that is salt water that all that is being soaked in. And another little quick hint about pickling: when you're pouring all this stuff off and heating it and putting it back, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, pour boiling liquid over your cucumbers. I used to mess up in that too, until I was told better by my Aunt Essie. Now my recipe is my recipe. Some people use a different recipe, so the steps may be different, but the basic things that you do is the same. First, you put all your cucumbers in your sink to wash. And as you wash them, each one, you slice them or whatever you want in your container. Alright, like I said, these, first thing you do for these is you put them on with salt water. And your recipe will tell you how much salt to your water. But you put your water on, bring it to a boil, you put your salt in it, you take and make it, it all dissolves, but you gotta let it cool till you can comfortably put your hand in it. Or if you pour that boiling water, you're gonna cook your cucumbers. But they have to stay under the water or they will go bad. So you just put a plate, and you may swing around and see, I have some quart cans over there with water in them and a lid on them. I use them to sit on them to weight the lids down, or weight the plates down, I'm sorry. And that keeps them under the water. Both of these has had the water on them for a couple of days with the salt. Alright, these have had the water on them with the salt for 4 days. I don't cover them because it seems to put the heat in there, they ain't circulate, and they will mold and mildew and everything worse. But you will get a little bit, it looks like stagnant water, or even I have at times gotten a little fleck or two of mold on them. That doesn't hurt them because you're going to wash all of that off. Unless your pickles get slimy, they're good. Alright, after you take all the salt water off, you have to rinse them good, cover them with cold water. Just leave them setting 24 hours. The next morning, you take your water and you put your alum in the boiling water, let them cool, and pour it over top of them after you've already drained them. Leave that 24 hours. You rinse that off and drain them real well. Then you cover them with water again. You leave them setting for 24 more hours. Then you start the vinegar, and I will tell you about that just as soon as I pour this off and drain it and show you how to do that. And as you can see, I like these buckets, and I got a thing, it's a piece of shelf liner, but it's rubberized. So when I tilt my bucket over and I hold that plate, my bucket's not going to come out from under me. And the big 5-gallon bucket does just as good as this one. It handles really well. But you got to hold that plate. Take your plate out. Rinse that a little bit off because you don't want no more salt water on it. You just put your cold water on there. This is another one of the ones that I have pickled. I picked small ones. Takes a while to do that. Some people don't have as many cucumber vines as I do, and you have to store them in your chiller box in your refrigerator till you have enough. You just rinse them really good. Put your plate back on. Pour it all off again. It takes a long time. It takes 14 days. Well, Larry said 13 days. But it's something you do to them every day after that first 4 days. And now I will just cover them back up with the water. And you get it up over them good so they will have room to go down under. Now I'll just put my plate back in. Put me a quart jar on top of that plate, and that will push them all down under the water. I use these for weights because that's the way they can be washed, but yet they're firm, heavy enough that it does it. And then I bring them back over here. Another thing is make sure I don't get these mixed up. I have a form on my computer where I have put my recipe in to keep it, that I keep beside of them, telling what I have to do for one each day. I've had so many people say, how do you keep it straight when you've got so many batches going? Well, as you can see, this is a blank one right here. But then there's where each time I do a batch, I fix that so I know I won't get them messed up and make sure I get everything done. Now I just take and go and get my pen each day that I do something. Like those, I just cover them with the cold water, so I'll mark that out. And I have another batch over there to do the same thing that I'll do later. And like I said, after you do that, get through this clear water and alum and clear water, then you come to this stage. This stage is the stage that Larry starts swiping the pickles. You get a hold of this and see it's 2 cups. This is the stage where you have to, that's when you got to be careful with your vinegar and your sugar, because you got to get the right mixture. You need to follow your recipe. This is another place I use Larry. He lifts them and moves them for me. So let me get a pan. I should have had it over here. And I'm sure everybody's just like me. They have a certain pan they use for everything. Right. And on my recipe, you have to drain your sugar, water, and sugar and vinegar off for 5 days. First morning, I had to add 6 cups of sugar. And then the next day, I added, I think it's 4 cups. Then every day, I have to add 2 more cups and reheat it, and then let it cool and go back. I got the sugar right there beside of you, Martha. This is the 2 cups, and they get a little sweeter every time you do that. Just set it over here all the way. And you just stir it up and put it on the stove until it comes to a boil. Then you leave it setting until it's where you can put your finger in it comfortably before you put it over the pickles. Y'all want a taste of the pickle?
Jill, you want to go first?
Yeah. They're not quite as sweet as they will be.
Oh, wow.
Getting crunchier.
That's really good.
I'll give y'all some, the taste after. They're getting there, but not quite as sweet as usual.
They're good though.
Yeah,
They're great.
yeah, I said that's when Larry starts stealing them from me. And you, like I said, you do that every morning until, and on your last day that you get ready to can them, to seal them, then you can make them sweeter if they're not, if you don't think they're going to be sweet enough. You can add whatever sugar you want, then it won't bother them. I usually just go by the recipe because, like I said, when I first started them, I had to put in 6 cups of sugar, then I put 4, then I put 2 every time that I reheat this syrup until I seal them, which these will be sealed, I think it's Wednesday. I haven't got my paper over here because when you got this many batches going, you can't keep your days straight what you're doing. And when you seal them, you take and drain them again, put them on, put your syrup in and get it boiling, rolling, boiling. You take your pickles, and that's when if I don't have enough to sort them and do my little ones at one time, I put them all in together. You'll notice some of these are sliced crossways, some of them are sliced lengthwise, and some of them are whole. Because I didn't have enough at that time. I had been holding them for quite a while, and I needed to go ahead and do it because I didn't want them to go bad on me, because they will if you leave them too long. You can keep them maybe about 5-6 days in the chiller box if you don't have it so cold that it will freeze them. You can't have it that cold. But you cannot keep them too long. That's what I was saying. They will start, especially the ones on the bottom that you put in there first, will start getting soft and mushy. Yeah, some won't even start to rot. But when you get ready to seal them, you bring them over and you start putting them in your cans. That's when you sort out what you want in different cans. You usually have 3 cans sitting there and you just do it. You get them full. You have a cold water canner, which is a canner that you have full of water. It's not a pressure canner. Pressure canner will make a mush. Okay. What I was talking about with canning, you sort your pickles in different size jars that you want. You go to your stove. You have this vinegar solution boiling. That's what you put on your pickles at the time. That's the only time you put boiling anything on top of your pickles. But you have your water over there in your canner. You may want to cut the light on it, or I don't know if you need it or not. I didn't put no water in it. Up over here. Yeah. You have your water in your canner, which it is called a cold water bath. You have it boiling. And when you put that boiling water on your pickles, you put your 2-piece lid on it. You set it in this rack. You have it ready so that when you take all those 7, that's what that will hold, is 7. You have 7 cans ready that you've got boiling water on, boiling vinegar on, that you're putting down in boiling water. All right, it's not going to stop boiling. The water won't, because it is so hot that you're putting in there. You lower it in your canner, put your lid on it, make sure it's a good rolling boil, and you start counting. 5 minutes. You take it out, bring them over, set them off, and let them cool. And they should start popping and sealing. Because if you cook them any longer than that, they're going to be mush. No pressure canning, they will be mush. And like I said, that's the only time making pickles that you put boiling anything on top of your cucumbers. My niece, Darlene, called me about pickles last night, and she was telling me, and I said, "Oh God, you don't put boiling on them." She said, "Well, I always have." And she said, "No wonder mine's not as firm as yours." I said, "Well, you know now." So you never get too old to learn something.
And how long, so you said how long do they
5 minutes is
5 minutes.
5 minutes is all you
And they'll
need to
seal.
seal them. Yeah. Because all you need to do is get that rim and that rubber around that lid good and hot. And with all the heat in it, that just seals them.
Then how long do you let them cool before you pull them out of there?
Oh, you take them out just
immediately.
immediately. Yeah, as soon as that 5 minutes is up,
Yeah.
you take them out and bring them over. I just bring them over on a counter.
Uh-huh.
And that's the reason I have sticky all over my floor when I go working with pickles. I go for about a month with sticky floors. But then I bring them over here, and I have a, what is it? Oh, here it is. So you just take this and take them out of your rack because it'd be too hot to handle.
Yeah.
And you just move them wherever. And I used to have a counter full of them when I'm doing it.
Cool. How many do you usually find, like, is there any ratio when you're trying to fill these up as far as like?
I put them in, I kind of put them in there. These, I put them in kind of loose. Just put them in there and just shake them a little bit, you know. Peck on the bottom of the can. And you can see you never come above that. That's where you come with your food on any kind of canning. Because if you do, it's going to push everything out. Because the pressure will take and push your fluid out of your cans. And I do the same thing with that. But now I pack these in a little tighter. These I do. These, I just place them in there and you can see they move real loose.
Yeah. What do you think is like somebody who was getting into canning who had no clues? What do you think, like, some things to watch for safety wise and like just, yeah?
Well, when it comes to your foods, now your regular foods, if you turn them up like that and they're white on the bottom, throw them away.
Okay.
If they come, if when you do that and they don't, and they pop, you know they've come unsealed. You need to do away with it.
Okay. Like, what do you look for in a good pickle?
A good pickle. I like a sweet pickle, and crispness and the darkness of the pickle.
See, like a crunch?
Yeah, I like that crunch.
Have to hit it again. Sorry. Here we go.
Yeah, you need the apple cider vinegar. Not the white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and it's a brown vinegar. And then there's your pickling spices and your alum. And then your sugar's about about all the supplies you really need.
Let's go again. Sorry, I thought I was on. Okay. What were you saying about that, Linda?
This is a Tupperware thing I got years ago. I've got two of them. One for the beet pickles and one for the cucumber pickles.
You're talking now.
That's a good idea. And these are the 019.
These are the 19s.
They ain't quite as crisp.
Well, we didn't think so.
And these are what year? These
But
are.
when they got cold, they got back just as crispy as could be.
There we go.
You want one of these?
Sure.
Yeah, there we go.
And do you see the difference in the little
Beyond that,
pickle?
we try and get rid of them.
Yeah.
You see the difference in the little pickles and using the others.
Mhm.
How much crispier they are. Anytime there's more peel, it's crispier.
Oh, yeah.
You can't buy them like that. I can tell you that much right now. You couldn't
I
buy
have a grandson that will not eat store-bought pickles,
Right.
but he will eat these like a snack.
You just cannot buy
I mean,
them.
you
that
get
will
them out,
taste
he'll
like
get
that.
a plate, and he just.
How do y'all can besides pickles?
Well, till I had my strokes, and I'm not able to do the garden like I used to. I have canned potatoes. You just dice them up and can them like any other vegetable. I've done green beans. We've done bushels and bushels of green beans. Our favorite thing that we used to do, and it is one of Larry's favorite things, is we used to can October beans. That's your little red and white striped bean. And I had cans and cans and cans of those, hundreds of cans. And like I said, tomatoes. I've made squash pickles, corn. We freeze can corn, and we also can it. Peaches, apples is another big thing for us that we still do. Is we get the apples, and the apples is another thing that a lot of people don't know how to can and can them good, because you have to cut your apples, then you put layers of sugar between your apples, and I use 5-gallon food buckets and plastic buckets, and you've got to take and layer it as you go up. Let it set where it's cool for about 24 hours. You get ready to pack them in your jars, then you're going to have enough syrup from that sugar that has pulled the water out of the apples to put on your apples to can them. Then when you open them, they have this thick syrup in them, and you just put you some butter in them and fry them down if you want to. If you want fried apples, you can dump them in a pie with a little bit of cornstarch and put your top and bottom crust and make an apple pie with your pie or cinnamon, whatever you want in it. That has been the majority of the biggest things that we have canned throughout the years. But up until really, I guess, till my kids kind of left home, we bought very little from the store unless it was just staple stuff because we didn't need it. And I have a feeling it's going to get that way again someday if it keeps going the way it's going. Our kids are going to need to know how to preserve.